Hey guys, what's going on? This is Justin. This is my first video. Um, just wanted to take some time to kind of go through some of the guys I'm considering for cash games this week, and maybe a few GPP guys. But I want to keep it short and sweet. For those of you who are beginners, um, cash games are more 50-50s, double ups, head to heads, which is what I mainly play. Allocation, I'm usually about between 70 to 80% cash games, and then I play about 20 to 30% GPPs, obviously. The way that I look at cash games is over the long haul, I'm going to be profitable in cash games, and then I use that profit to take stabs at GPPs. So really, my goal in the end of it is that my cash games are subsidizing my GPP playing. So even though honestly I'm not the best GPP player, but yeah, I'll kind of get into some of that logic here and everything. And just want to say thank you for tuning in. Like I said, this is my first video, so sorry if it's not super clean, or I'm gonna try my best though. So just leave some comments. Anything you think you'd do better, if you want me to do it again, and just obviously subscribe to the channel, or like the video if you don't mind. I'll try my best to play some, give you some good content. So for now, let's just focus on some cash games and kind of decisions I make. All these guys are good plays, so I'm not going to talk you off any of them. But typically with quarterback, my mindset is to pay down, and that's just because the range of outcomes for quarterbacks is typically more narrow. So to me, paying down at quarterbacks throughout to go. I really think it comes down to two guys for cash. Russell Wilson, you know, Seattle's been throwing the ball a little bit more than we all expected, and despite the fact that the game script was perfect for him to throw it a little bit more in these last couple of games, even when he only threw the ball 20 times, he scored 16 points, and I feel confident that he'll fall into that 25 to 30 range probably, if we're being realistic. And if he puts up 20 points for cash game, more than happy with that. Really, I'm not sure, the standard that was always told to me was 3x. So if for cash games, we kind of want to get to that 150 mark. And more times than not, if you get to that 150 mark, you're going to hit the cash line. So really, if we can get 3x out of all our guys, then we're in good shape. So Russell Wilson's the first guy I'm considering. Arizona, awful defense. See by the opponent rank. You don't need me to tell you. They've gotten lit up by everyone they've played. So Russell Wilson's the guy I'm considering for cash. And then the only other guy I would consider is Danny Dimes. He's playing Washington. Washington's awful. Made Mitchell Trubisky look like a competent quarterback last week. Don't overthink it. He's got a rushing floor, which is huge in DFS. Think about it. The guy runs for 40 yards. That's an extra touchdown, essentially scoring wise. So just they come in with a preloaded high floor. So just don't overthink it. You should either be picking Russell Wilson or Danny Dimes for cash quarterback. For now, I'll plug in Wilson. That's probably what I'm leaning towards. Running backs, honestly, guys, most weeks you're going to want 3 running backs. So obviously the 2 running back slots and then 1 in the flex. This week, that's what it's looking to me. I think, depending on some news we get on some people, I think my build is pretty straightforward. And there are a couple decisions that you have to make, but I think it's a pretty straightforward week, guys. So let's start at the bottom. I wouldn't mess around with any of these guys except for Wayne Gallman. He's going to be chalk. People are going to play him. I think people were a little hesitant in the beginning of the week just because there's some unknown with him, but he's a solid player. Based on everything that I've read, he is a very good pass catcher, and if he gets you 11 rushes and 4 catches, that's 15 touches. Probably a floor of 12 to 13 points. If he scores a touchdown, he's going to smash value. And remember what I said, guys, 3x, 4,600. He only needs roughly 15 points to meet value. And with these guys that are so cheap, he opens things up to some more expensive players. So I'm going to plug Wayne Gallman in. None of these other guys I'm considering for cash. They're all GPP guys. Kerryon Johnson might be the one exception. Game script scares me a little bit in this game, because the Lions have a tendency to go to Ty Johnson. or at least that's the thought process. Kerryon had a lot of touches last week, but the game script was pretty good. Their game was close. If they fall behind the Chiefs, which is always a possibility, um, I worry a little bit about him, but he is an option. Chiefs' run defense is awful, and on the road, Kerryon's definitely interesting. Marlon Mack is another guy who's super interesting. Doesn't catch a ton of passes, but he's running a decent amount of routes. And the Raiders' defense, the run defense played pretty well the first 2 weeks, but we all watched Dalvin Cook light him up last week. I'm a subscriber to Establish the Run, and Brandon Thorne, who's kind of their offensive line expert, kind of mentioned how he thought that this was a mismatch. So something to think about, and I think that he's definitely viable, but he's probably not in the build that I'm looking at. So I just keep going up the list. Honestly, guys, it's probably Team Jammelman week. For those of you who don't know, Team Jammelman was kind of created a couple of years ago when we had David Johnson and Le'Veon Bell just getting massive usage and touches. So I think this week is going to kind of line up that same. So we're just going to jam in the high. These guys have huge floors. Austin Eckler playing against Miami. Even if he gets pulled, he's probably going to get 15 to 20 touches. He's probably going to score a touchdown. He's going to smash value. Or, sorry, not smash value, but he's going to smash. So if he gets you 20, 25 points, that's a huge floor, and just plug him in. Don't overthink it. Just don't overthink it, guys. Same thing with Christian McCaffrey. Just don't overthink it. The guy's a stud. He is. Just plug him in. Don't overthink it. You don't need me to tell you that he's a great player. Coming to wide receivers, all these guys are awesome, but I don't usually pay up for wide receivers like this in cash games. Unless there's some lower end running backs I like. These guys are all good. You don't, like I said, you don't even. Julio Jones at home on turf, stud. Hopkins always good. Allen a stud. Beckham, probably not a guy I like, but Baltimore's got some injuries in the secondary. So, although I think Marlon Humphrey I saw might shadow, so maybe a tournament play. Mike Evans. See, none of these guys get me exciting. So I'll come down here to Cooper Kupp. This guy's been a stud, dude. I mean, he coming off his ACL injury. I think there was some worry that he might start off the season slow, but he's been nothing but a stud, and I like Cooper Kupp. And against Tampa Bay, who's a pass funnel defense. For those of you who don't know, a pass funnel just means that since they're so good at stopping the run, they funnel teams tend to funnel passes against them. So I would, as of right now, Cooper Kupp, just plugging them in. Tyler Lockett's interesting too. He's been getting a lot of work, and he's a slot player predominantly. Tremaine Brock is the slot corner for Arizona. Obviously, Lockett's got a huge advantage here, so I don't hate him either. And he's getting targets, so one guy to keep in mind. None of these other guys I'm really considering. Maybe Marquise Brown if you can get to him. Cleveland has two starting corners that are hurt. I'm not sure their status at this time, but last I checked, I want to say they were DNPs, did not practice all week. So definitely someone to consider. Tournaments love the guy. Just coming down the list a little bit. Let's see. Mecole Hardman. I didn't mention Mahomes in the beginning, but he's a stud. Play him in tournaments. If you're not, you're probably not doing something right. Mahomes isn't a cash game quarterback for me, but tournament lineup, stack him with Mecole Hardman, Sammy Watkins, Demarcus Robinson, Travis Kelce. Just play all the dudes. They're all good. You're probably going to want to pick one or two of those guys unless you really think Casey is going to explode, which is definitely a possibility. Then you can play a couple of them. Christian Kirk, he's getting a lot of targets. He's got a high floor. He's cash game viable to me. Probably not the route I'm going. I'm going to come down here to some of the chalkier guys and some of the guys that I'm looking at. So Terry McLaurin, F1, Scary Terry, whatever you want to call him. It's been awesome. Monday night pricing. I think this is probably going to be the last week that you see him this cheap. So he did show up on the injury report later in the week. He tweaked his hamstring in practice. There's some uncertainty on how serious that injury is and what's going on, but something we're going to have to keep monitoring. If we get some confirmation that he's good to go and it was just precautionary, just plug him in. If there's some worry, we're going to have to make a decision. And speed wide receiver who had a hamstring pull late in the week, a little scary to me. So this is subject to change, but for now I will plug him in. A pivot or a guy that I actually like, and I might actually play along with him, is Will Fuller. He's getting a decent amount of targets. He's playing a lot of snaps. Carolina's Dante Jackson, who's kind of their speedier corner, has been injured all week, and I'm not sure if he was officially ruled out yet or not, but it seemed like he was trending that way. So Will Fuller is a great choice, and I'm considering him in cash. He's not typically a guy I want to play in cash, only because in the past he's been more of a boom bust guy. But I think I'm just gonna plug him in. Just don't overthink it. Another guy that I was considering for cash, just to let you guys know, was Curtis Samuel against Houston in dome. Fast guy. Houston's defense is trash. They've been trash for a while, so you can consider him. He could be a pivot if McLaurin's hurt. The one thing I do want to talk about is that if McLaurin is ruled out, I think I'm going to Paul Richardson. Last week he had some decent amount of targets, and I think him and then Vernon Davis, who we'll get to, if McLaurin's out or limited in any fashion, I think these are the two guys that I like from this game. I think you could go here. So just keep an eye on the news, and you could always pivot to him if McLaurin's limited or out. Tight end. Listen, with the way my build is going, I'm going to have to pay down at tight end, which is what I typically do. But if you play Evan Ingram, who's a stud, Kelsey, Waller against that zone defense in Indy, Mark Andrews, solid, Walker, Hooper, Elson, like these guys are all really good plays. And I won't fault you for playing them in cash. It's just not the way that I'm going this week. Really, the two guys that I'm looking at for cash, if I can get there, is Evan Ingram. And then coming down here, Will Dissly. So he's been getting some targets. He's scoring touchdowns, but I don't like chasing touchdowns. But he's playing Arizona, who they're awful. I mean, their defense is awful. Let's see what their rank is. I mean, yeah, 32nd. I mean, there's not much to really say here. I think Al Smizzle, who kind of coined the phrase the flow chart, are the Cardinals playing this weekend? Is the team they're playing employee tight end? If so, play that guy. Will Dissly's cheap. I'm plugging him in. The one thing I will say is I'm not sure how much I'm playing him in tournaments, though. Typically, my thought process with tournaments and cash lineups is I try and hedge a little bit at least. So guys that I'm really heavy on in cash, maybe I try and fade a little bit more in tournaments. I'm not saying that I completely fade the guys, but if someone like Will Dissly, I might try and play some other tight ends instead of him, just in case he busts. Maybe if I don't do so well in cash, then maybe one of my tournament lineups will hit. So for now, I'm just going to plug in Will Dissly. Don't overthink it. But like I said, there's a lot of decent options. Coming to defense, obviously I have 3,400, so some of these top-end defenses won't fit, but Chargers against Miami, don't need me to explain to you why they're a good pick. I really like the Rams a lot. Jameis Winston's turnover prone. I anticipate Tampa Bay having to play from behind. I think the Rams are a great choice. I think I'm just going to plug in the Bears. Huge mismatch on the offensive defensive line. I think I'm actually going to this game tomorrow for what it's worth, so I got to have some skin in the game, you know. I think I just have these replays in my head of the Bears just destroying Kirk Cousins last year, both times they played him. So I'm just not overthinking this one. It fits perfectly. I've used up all my salary. I think this is going to be a pretty common build. So honestly, this week feels pretty straightforward to me, guys. I just don't overthink it. I kind of mentioned some of the guys I'm interested in, running backs. I'd throw Kerryon Johnson in there, quarterback. I'd also consider Danny Dimes, Terry McLaurin, like I said before. If he's out or limited, pivot to Paul Richardson, and then you could use that salary to come up to Kerryon Johnson or beef up your tight end if you don't want to play Will Dissly. Um, there's some options, and you just have to be prepared for um, both situations and kind of what you're looking for. So I think that's going to be it, guys. I mean, this looks pretty good to me. If you could leave a comment or like the page or subscribe to the channel, just, any feedback's appreciated. This is my first video. I know it wasn't perfect. I'll try and work on some things I can show you in my face. Not that you want to see it next time, but just kind of want to get a feel for what you guys think. I think this will help me in my process, just kind of talk through things, make sure I'm not making some dumb decision. So I appreciate you guys tuning in. And then once again, if you have any feedback, please feel free to reach out. And thank you for tuning in. I appreciate it.